Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Big Ten Under 10 on the Hoosier Network. Adam Oppenheim with me, of course, is Graham Nash, and we have an exciting show in men's sports. We will start with talking about the end of the Big Ten basketball regular season and discuss what's to come in March. The Big Ten tournament is now set with teams ranked seeds 1 through 15. But before we discuss what's to come, we will run you through some scores of the past week. 8th-ranked Michigan State ends the regular season on a 7-game winning streak, including beating Iowa on the road 91-84, and then coming back to the Breslin Center and sweeping rival number 17 Michigan 79-62. It hasn't been as easy for 12th-ranked Wisconsin as they won at Minnesota 74-67. But then Penn State, a team who didn't even qualify for the Big Ten tournament, won in Wisconsin's building at the Kohl Center 86-75. The 13th-ranked Maryland Terrapins have been the biggest surprise in the Big Ten this season, and that continued this week. They took down Michigan 71-65 in Ann Arbor, and then unranked Northwestern at 74-61 back in College Park. I already mentioned the 17th-ranked Michigan Wolverines 2 games this past week, but important to note, Dusty May's team has lost 3 straight games to end the regular season. Lastly, number 18 Purdue, preseason number 1 team in the Big Ten, finishes as the 6th seed in the Big Ten. After a win against Rutgers 100-71, they dropped a game in Champaign to unranked Illinois 88-80. Graham, we turn back to you. Michigan State outscored Michigan 50-28 in the first half. How did the Spartans take control so early?
I think the big thing was that Michigan State scored 18 points off 11 Michigan turnovers in that first half. That is a very sizable number. Very, very big. But then other than that, Michigan was 2 for 10 from beyond the arc in the first half, which is not very good. And on the other side of the spectrum, Michigan State made 7 threes and shot 43% from the floor in the first half. So everything was going down for the Spartans. Nothing was going down for Michigan. And then Michigan State, their defense and their pressure was phenomenal.
Michigan State has looked really strong in these past couple weeks. The Big Ten tournament starts on Wednesday and goes until Sunday. The 1 seed is Michigan State, 2 is Maryland, 3 is Michigan, and 4 is UCLA. Besides those 4 teams, Graham, is there anyone else you think that could make a run and run the table in the tournament?
I think it would be Purdue if it were to be anyone.
6 seed?
Yeah, the 6 seed. Like you said, was projected to be the 1 seed. Is no longer because they didn't finish great. But the first thing that sticks out is West Lafayette is only an hour north of Gainbridge Fieldhouse. That's a pretty easy drive for very committed Boilermaker fans. So I think that's going to help. The other thing is they'd play USC or Rutgers. They beat those teams by a combined 57 points in the regular season. Then they would play Michigan, who is struggling. They've lost their last 3 to end the season. And then they beat Maryland back in December by 5, who they would then play in the next level. So they're kind of just on the easier half of the bracket, to put it frankly. And I think with the momentum of the fans, I think they could have a good edge.
So Matt Painter and Purdue. Now, after the Big Ten tournament is obviously the NCAA tournament or March Madness. Who are your 3 most likely candidates to go far in the Big Ten? And if you have them ranked, that would be great.
Well, number 1, I'll give you Michigan State. I don't think there's much argument or much surprise there. They've been phenomenal. At 2, I'm going to give you Maryland. Maryland has finished phenomenally. They've won 7 of their last 8. Yep. Every single starter on that team is averaging double-digit points. They are very good at sharing the ball.
And they can shoot it, too.
They can shoot it. They can score on all different levels. They're going to be my second pick. And third, I'm going to give you the Illini, the Fighting Illini of Illinois. We know, of course, what happened in that game against Duke. They lost by 30+, but they've won every single game after that, including 2 wins against ranked teams in Michigan and Purdue. Their offense is high-powered. I think if they get it going, it's going to be hard to stop them.
Now, it's important to note that the Big Ten has not performed well in the NCAA tournament over the years, besides Michigan State and a long time ago, Michigan. So it's time to switch gears to a sport that is now just beginning Big Ten play. That's baseball. Unfortunately for the Big Ten, still only 1 team is ranked in the top 25. That will be 10th-ranked Oregon, who swept a 3-game set against USC. The scores were 7-2, 8-6, and 5-3. Indiana and Penn State had a high-scoring series in University Park. Penn State won 2 games, 15-9 and 10-6, but lost the second game of the series, 17-6. Illinois was able to salvage the series against Michigan, taking the last game of a 3-game set, losing the series 2-1. UCLA took 2 of 3 from Maryland, highlighted by a 12-6 win in 10 innings on Friday. The Boilers have looked strong this season, and they sit at 14-2 after winning 2 of 3 from Rutgers over the weekend. Lastly, Washington won the first 2 of 3 against Nebraska at the Cornhuskers, taking the final game on Sunday. Graham, we turn back to you. This has been the start of Big Ten play. Was there a series that stood out to you?
I think Oregon sweeping USC. I mean, the Ducks played some pretty bad teams in the pre-conference slate, to be quite fair. So this is proof that they are actually really good. They've got some very good offense. I mean, look at Mason Neville. He's got a home run in 8 of 15 games that he's played. That is unbelievable. That does not happen. So they've got really good offense. Other than that, I'd say the Indiana series loss to Penn State. The Hoosiers, they finished 3rd in the Big Ten last season. Penn State, they were a middling team in the Big Ten last season. And so obviously, you know, there's going to be Midwestern teams having struggles in the early season because they don't get to practice outside, a lot of travel. But this was their opportunity to kind of establish themselves, not traveling as far, not switching time zones, and against a team that they've seen a lot that's not as good, and they lost the series. So I think that's a bad sign.
Now, another team that has been really solid in the Big Ten has been Purdue. Maybe a little bit surprising, but do they have the ability to keep up this pace into conference play?
I don't really think so. Their wins haven't necessarily been surprising in my mind. They beat Indiana State, who made the NCAA tournament last year. I think that's one of their better wins, because other than that, they've beaten Minnesota, who was bottom 3rd of the Big Ten last season. They're not a great team. I mean, Purdue, they were top half last year. I think they have potential to get top half again, but there have been some really good West Coast teams that have been added to the Big Ten, so I'm not sure if they have the same mustard to get them through and to get them in that conversation of being competitive.
So we'll just have to wait and see. Let's switch gears to another sport that is getting close to the NCAA tournament. That is wrestling. The Big Ten tournament took place from Friday until Sunday, with Penn State, unsurprisingly, claiming the top spot. Penn State had a score of 181.5, followed by Nebraska, who had 137 points, and Iowa, who had 112 points. 4th, 5th, and 6th is as follows: Minnesota, Illinois, Ohio State. The 2025 Wrestler of the Year in the Big Ten was Kara Starachi, who finished the year undefeated at 184 pounds, going 21-0. He was one of 5 Nittany Lions wrestlers who won their weight class individually in the Big Ten tournament. Nebraska took down 2 first-place finishes. Illinois, Michigan, and Minnesota had 1 first-place finish apiece. We'll keep it right here with the Big Ten tournament that is set for Big Ten hockey. That will take place on Saturday, March 15th. That will lead into the NCAA tournament on the ice. But first, some scores from the past week. Number 3, Minnesota lost 2 of 3 to unranked Notre Dame over the weekend. They lost 3-2 and 4-1. They did win 4-2 in the game on Saturday. 9th-ranked Ohio State took on Wisconsin and lost the first game 4-1. They bounced back and won the second game 3-2 in overtime and 3-2 in regulation. The only other Big Ten teams in action were 11th-ranked Michigan and 15th-ranked Penn State. The Nittany Lions won both games on the road, winning Friday 6-5 in overtime, and then picking up another victory 5-2 the following day. That is going to wrap up today's show. Huge thanks to our producer, Colin Dusek, and teleprompter Henry Thus for making all this possible. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at B1G_under 10. And check back in later this week for our next episode of Big Ten Under 10.